Every night, truckers disappear without a trace. What the police find in their empty cabs is far worse than any accident. I've been hauling freight for 12 years, and I thought I'd seen everything. Dead animals on the highway, drunk drivers, even a tornado once. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on Route 80 through Nebraska last October. I was making a late-night run from Omaha to Denver, carrying electronics for a big box store. The pay was good, the route was familiar, and I figured I'd be home by morning. I was dead wrong. It started around 2:30 a.m. The highway was completely empty, just me and the endless black sky. No other trucks, no cars, nothing. Just my headlights cutting through the darkness and the white lines rushing under my wheels. I'd been driving for about 6 hours straight, and my eyes were getting heavy. I was debating whether to pull over for a quick nap when I saw something in my side mirror. At first, I thought it was just another truck coming up behind me. But as it got closer, I realized something was very, very wrong. The truck behind me was identical to mine. Same make, same model, same color, even the same company logo on the side. I blinked hard, thinking exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But no, it was real. The truck matched my speed exactly, staying about 50 feet behind me. I slowed down to 55. It slowed to 55. I sped up to 70. It sped up to 70. My heart started pounding. This couldn't be a coincidence. I grabbed my CB radio and called out. "Hey, truck behind me, you copy?" Static. I tried again. "This is Red Wolf, calling the truck on my tail. You reading me?" More static, but then, underneath it, I heard something that made my blood freeze. It was my voice. My exact voice, saying the exact same words I just said, but delayed by about 2 seconds, like an echo. "This is Red Wolf, calling the truck on my tail. You reading me?" I dropped the handset like it had burned me. What the hell was going on? I looked in my mirror again, trying to see who was driving the other truck. The cab was dark, but I could make out a figure in the driver's seat. As my eyes adjusted, I saw something that made me want to scream. The driver looked exactly like me. Same face, same body, same clothes. He was staring straight ahead with no expression, his hands on the wheel in the exact same position as mine. I swerved slightly to test something. The truck behind me swerved at the exact same time, in the exact same way. It was mirroring every move I made, like it was connected to me somehow. Panic took over. I slammed on the brakes, hoping to let the truck pass or force it to stop. My truck screeched as it slowed, the smell of burning rubber filling the cab. But the truck behind me didn't slow down. It should have crashed into me, but instead, it just vanished. 1 second it was there in my mirror, the next second, nothing. Just empty highway behind me. I sat there on the shoulder, my hands shaking, my breath coming in short gasps. What the hell had I just seen? I must have sat there for 10 minutes, trying to convince myself it was just exhaustion, just my mind playing tricks. But I knew what I had seen. That truck was real. That driver was real. And he had my face. Finally, I forced myself to keep driving. I needed to get off this highway, get to a truck stop, be around other people. I merged back onto the road and pushed my speed up to 75, desperate to put distance between me and whatever that thing was. For about 20 minutes, everything seemed normal. Then I noticed something in my passenger side mirror. The truck was back, but this time it was beside me, matching my speed perfectly in the lane next to mine. I turned my head to look directly at it, and what I saw will haunt me until the day I die. The driver turned his head at the exact same moment I did, and we locked eyes. It was like looking into a mirror, except the eyes staring back at me were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just solid black orbs in my face. And then he smiled. It was my smile, but stretched too wide, showing too many teeth. I screamed and jerked the wheel to the right, nearly losing control of my truck. When I looked again, the other truck was gone. I checked all my mirrors. Nothing. It had vanished again. I was hyperventilating now, my vision starting to blur. I needed to get off this highway immediately. I took the next exit, not caring where it led, just needing to be anywhere but on that road. The exit ramp led to a small town that looked half abandoned. I found a tiny motel with a flickering vacancy sign and practically ran inside. The clerk, an old woman with tired eyes, took one look at me and asked if I was okay. I must have looked like hell. I paid for a room and asked if she'd seen any other trucks around. She shook her head. "You're the first vehicle I've seen in hours, honey." Quiet night. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those black eyes staring at me. That impossible smile. Around 6 a.m., when the sun finally came up, I forced myself to go back to my truck. I needed to finish this delivery and get home. As I approached my truck in the motel parking lot, I froze. There was something sitting on my driver's seat. Even from outside, I could see it through the window. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the door and climbed in. On my seat was a Polaroid photograph. I picked it up, and my stomach dropped. It was a picture of me, asleep in the motel room, taken from inside the room. I could see myself in the bed, the digital clock showing 3:47 a.m. But that was impossible. My door had been locked. The windows didn't open. No one could have gotten in. I flipped the photo over. On the back, written in handwriting that looked exactly like mine, were 4 words, "I'm driving tonight too." I called the police, but they didn't find anything. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. They suggested I was overtired and maybe took the photo myself without remembering. But I know I didn't. I know what I saw on that highway. I know something was following me, something that looked like me, something that could be in 2 places at once. I took a week off after that, couldn't bring myself to get back on the road. But bills don't pay themselves, and eventually, I had no choice. I'm back driving now, but I'm not the same. Every time I see another truck in my mirrors, my heart races. Every time I pass an empty stretch of highway at night, I check my mirrors obsessively. And sometimes, late at night when I'm alone on the road, I see it again. That identical truck. That driver with my face and black eyes. It never gets close anymore, just stays far back, barely visible in my mirrors. Watching. Waiting. Other truckers have told me stories. There's something out there that copies people. It follows truckers on lonely highways, learning them, mimicking them. Some drivers say it's looking for a way to replace us, to take our lives. Others think it's something else, something that feeds on fear and isolation. I don't know what it is. But I know it's still out there. And I know it hasn't forgotten about me. Last week, I was at a truck stop in Iowa. I went inside to grab some coffee, and when I came back out, there was a note tucked under my windshield wiper. I opened it with shaking hands. It was written in my handwriting, "Next time, I won't just watch. I drive during the day now whenever I can. But sometimes I have no choice. Sometimes the delivery has to be made at night. And on those nights, I don't sleep. I keep both hands on the wheel, my eyes on the mirrors, and I pray that when I look back, I'll only see empty road. Because I know if I see that truck again, if I see that thing wearing my face, I might not make it home. And then what? Will it take my place? Will it go home to my family, wearing my face, living my life? The thought terrifies me more than anything. I'm telling you this story because I need you to understand. If you're ever driving late at night and you see a truck that looks exactly like yours following behind you, don't stop. Don't slow down. Don't try to make contact. Just drive. Drive until the sun comes up. Drive until you're surrounded by people. Because that thing, whatever it is, it doesn't want to help you. It doesn't want to be your friend. It wants to be you. And once it learns enough, once it can perfectly copy everything about you, you'll disappear. And no one will ever know the difference. Story 2, The Hitchhiker with No Shadow. I picked up a hitchhiker 3 months ago, and I've been running from him ever since. I know how that sounds. How can you run from someone you picked up and dropped off? But you don't understand. I never dropped him off. He's still with me, somehow, even though I've seen him leave 100 times. It was a cold February night in Montana, one of those nights where the temperature drops so low you can feel it seeping through the truck's heater. I was hauling lumber from Missoula to Billings, a route I'd driven countless times. The roads were icy, and I was taking it slow, maybe 45 miles per hour on a highway where I'd normally do 70. That's when I saw him standing on the shoulder, thumb out, wearing nothing but a thin jacket and jeans. Now, I need to be clear about something. I never pick up hitchhikers. Ever. Company policy strictly forbids it, and I've heard too many horror stories from other drivers. But it was negative 15 degrees that night. Negative 15. This guy would be dead within the hour if someone didn't stop. So I did something I'd never done in 15 years of trucking. I pulled over. He jogged up to my passenger door, and I rolled down the window. "You need a ride?" I asked. He nodded, his teeth chattering. "Please." My car broke down about 5 miles back. I've been walking for an hour. I unlocked the door, and he climbed in, bringing a wave of cold air with him. "Thank you," he said. "You're a lifesaver." Literally. I pulled back onto the highway and cranked up the heat. "Where you headed?" I asked. "Billings," he said. "Same as you." I didn't remember telling him where I was going, but I figured it was just a lucky guess. Billings was the biggest city in this direction. "What's your name?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "Jake," he said. "You?" "Tom," I replied. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I glanced over at him a few times, just to make sure he was warming up. That's when I noticed something strange. The cab of my truck has a dome light that stays on while you're driving, just bright enough to see by. But Jake wasn't casting a shadow. I looked at my own hands on the wheel. Clear shadow. I looked at the shifter, the dashboard, everything. All casting shadows. But Jake, sitting right there in my passenger seat, had no shadow at all. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold outside. I tried to tell myself it was just the angle of the light, some trick of perspective. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. "So, Jake," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you do for work?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different. Flatter. "I used to be a truck driver." "Like you?" "Yeah." "What company?" I asked. "Lots of companies," he said. "I've worked for all of them. Been doing this for a very long time." Something about the way he said "very long time" made my skin crawl. I glanced at him again, and this time I noticed something else. He wasn't breathing. His chest wasn't moving. No fog came from his mouth in the cold air. He was just sitting there, perfectly still, staring straight ahead. "Jake," I said carefully. "You feeling okay?" He turned to look at me, and I had to fight to keep my eyes on the road. His face was wrong. I can't explain it better than that. It was like someone had made a mask of a human face but gotten all the proportions slightly off. His eyes were too far apart. His mouth was too wide. And when he smiled, I counted his teeth. 32 is normal. Jake had at least 40. "I feel fine, Tom," he said. "Better than I have in years. It's nice to have company on these long drives, don't you think?" I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. "Yeah," I managed. "Sure is." I had to get him out of my truck. I started looking for anywhere to pull over, any excuse to stop. "Actually, Jake, I need to make a quick stop. Need to check something on the truck." "No, you don't," he said simply. "You're lying. You want me to leave." His voice had changed again. It was lower now, almost a growl. I can tell when people are lying, Tom. I've had a lot of practice. My heart was hammering. Look, man, I don't know what's going on, but I think you should get out at the next town. I can drop you at a gas station, and you can. I'm not going anywhere, Jake interrupted. I like it here. I like your truck. I like your company. And I think I'll stay. I looked at him again, and this time his eyes were completely black. Just like the thing in the first story, no whites, no pupils, just solid black orbs. What are you? I whispered. He laughed, and the sound made my ears hurt. It was like nails on a chalkboard mixed with grinding metal. I'm a passenger, Tom. Just a passenger looking for a ride. And you were kind enough to stop. The problem is, once you let me in, I don't leave until I'm ready. And I'm not ready yet. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't fight him. I couldn't throw him out while driving. So I did the only thing I could think of. I started praying. I'm not a religious man, never have been, but in that moment, I begged God, the universe, anyone who was listening to help me. And then I saw lights ahead. A truck stop. I'm pulling in here, I said firmly. You can get out, or I'm calling the police. Jake smiled that horrible smile again. Go ahead, Tom. Pull in. Call the police. See what happens. I pulled into the truck stop and parked. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I was watching Jake the whole time, expecting him to do something, to attack me, anything. But he just sat there smiling. 911, what's your emergency? The operator said. There's someone in my truck, I said quickly. I picked up a hitchhiker, and he won't leave. I think he's dangerous. I'm at the Flying J off Highway 90, mile marker 274. The operator said they'd send someone and to stay on the line. I kept the phone to my ear, my eyes locked on Jake. And then he did something that made me want to scream. He reached for the door handle and opened it. See you soon, Tom, he said. And he stepped out into the parking lot. I watched him walk away, moving between the parked trucks. 2 police cars pulled in about 5 minutes later. I explained everything to them, described Jake, told them which direction he'd walked. They searched the entire truck stop. They found nothing. No one matching his description. It was like he'd vanished. The police took my statement and suggested I get some rest. One officer said I looked exhausted and maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. But I know I didn't. I know Jake was real. And here's the thing that's been destroying my sanity for 3 months. He's still in my truck. I see him in my mirrors. Just for a second, sitting in the sleeper cab behind me, watching. I hear him breathing when the truck is quiet. I smell that cold, dead smell that came in with him. And every few days, I find something in my truck that wasn't there before. A button from his jacket on my dashboard. A wet footprint on my floor even though it hasn't rained. Once, I found a note written on my logbook, thanks for the ride. I'm still here. I've had my truck blessed by 3 different priests. I've burned sage. I've hung crosses and protective symbols everywhere. Nothing works. He's still here. And the worst part? Sometimes, late at night when I'm driving alone, I catch him in my peripheral vision sitting in the passenger seat. I'll turn to look, and he's gone. But I can feel him watching me. Always watching. Other drivers have told me about Jake. They call him the eternal passenger. He's been hitchhiking these roads for decades, maybe longer. Every trucker who picks him up regrets it. Most of them quit driving within a year. A few have crashed their trucks, claiming Jake grabbed the wheel. One driver disappeared entirely. They found his truck abandoned on the side of the highway, engine still running, no sign of the driver. And sitting in the passenger seat was a thin jacket and a pair of jeans. The same jacket and jeans Jake was wearing. I don't know what Jake wants. I don't know if he's a ghost, a demon, or something else entirely. But I know he's not done with me. Last night, I woke up in my sleeper cab to find him standing over me, just staring down with those black eyes. "Soon," he whispered. "Soon I'll be driving, and you'll be the passenger." Then he disappeared. I'm writing this as a warning. If you're ever driving late at night and you see someone hitchhiking, don't stop. I don't care how cold it is. I don't care how desperate they look. Don't stop. Because some passengers never leave. And once they're in your truck, they're in your life forever. Or at least until they take it from you. Story 3, the rest stop where time stops. I got lost once, and I ended up somewhere that can't exist. I know that sounds impossible, but I swear on everything I love, this place was real. It's been 8 months, and I still can't find it again, but I dream about it every night. I dream about the people there, the ones who couldn't leave, the ones who begged me to help them. It happened last summer. I was hauling refrigerated goods from Minneapolis to Chicago, a straightforward route I'd driven probably 100 times. But somewhere in Wisconsin, I missed my exit. I don't know how it happened. I wasn't tired. I wasn't distracted. I was just driving, and suddenly I realized I was on a road I didn't recognize. My GPS said recalculating and then went blank. No signal. No map. Just a gray screen. I figured I'd just keep driving until I found a town or another highway. But after 30 minutes on this narrow 2-lane road, I started to worry. There were no signs. No mile markers. No other cars. Just dense forest on both sides and this road that seemed to go on forever. The sun was setting, and I knew I needed to find somewhere to stop for the night. That's when I saw the rest stop. It appeared suddenly, like it had materialized out of thin air. 1 second there was just road and trees, the next second there was this big parking lot with a building and those old-style streetlights. The building looked old, like something from the 1960s, all brick and small windows. There were a few cars in the parking lot, which gave me some relief. At least I wasn't completely alone out here. I pulled in and parked my truck. The first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Not peaceful quiet, but wrong quiet. No birds. No insects. No wind. Just silence so complete it made my ears ring. I climbed out of my truck, and the air felt strange. Thick, almost, like I was walking through water. I shook off the feeling and headed toward the building. The front doors were glass, but I couldn't see inside. They were fogged up, like condensation had formed on the inside. I pushed one open, and a wave of cold air hit me. The building was freezing, way colder than outside. I stepped into what looked like a typical rest stop. Vending machines, a few bathrooms, some chairs, and tables. But everything looked old. The vending machines were models I hadn't seen since I was a kid. The chairs were that orange plastic from the 70s. Even the posters on the walls were faded and outdated. And then I saw the people. There were maybe 15 people scattered around the rest stop. Some sitting at tables. Some standing by the vending machines. One woman was reading a magazine so old and yellowed it looked like it would crumble if she turned the page. But here's the thing that made my blood run cold. None of them were moving. I mean, none of them. The woman with the magazine held it at the same angle, her eyes fixed on the same spot. A man at a table had a coffee cup raised halfway to his mouth, frozen in mid-sip. A kid near the window had his hand pressed against the glass, like he'd been looking outside for hours. "Hello?" I called out. No response. Not even a blink. I walked closer to the nearest person, an older man sitting at a table. "Sir? Are you okay?" I reached out and touched his shoulder. His skin was ice cold, but he wasn't dead. I could feel a pulse, faint and slow, like his heart was barely beating. He didn't react to my touch at all. I backed away, my heart pounding. What the hell was this place? I tried the door I'd just come through. Locked. I pushed harder. It wouldn't budge. I ran to another door on the opposite side of the building. Also locked. I was trapped in here with these frozen people. Panic started to set in. I pulled out my phone. No signal. The time on my phone said 7:43 p.m. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what was happening. I walked around the rest stop, looking for any clue, any explanation. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach turn. Every clock in the building showed a different time. The clock on the wall said 3:15. The clock on the vending machine said 9:47. A watch on one of the frozen people's wrists said 11:23. None of them were ticking. They were all frozen at different times. I checked my phone again. Still 7:43 p.m. I waited a full minute, counting in my head. Looked again. 7:43 p.m. Time had stopped. Or maybe time worked differently here. I didn't know. I just knew I needed to get out. I tried breaking a window, but they wouldn't break. I hit one with a chair as hard as I could, and the chair shattered, but the window didn't even crack. I screamed for help, but my voice sounded muffled, like the air was swallowing the sound. I was truly trapped. Hours passed. Or at least I think they did. My phone still said 7:43 p.m., and I had no way to tell how much time was actually going by. I sat down at one of the tables, trying not to look at the frozen people around me, trying to think of a way out. That's when I heard it. A whisper. Quiet, barely audible, but definitely there. Help us. I jumped up, looking around. The frozen people were still frozen, but the whisper came again. Please. Help us. I realized it was coming from the woman with the magazine. Her lips weren't moving, but somehow I could hear her voice in my head. We're stuck. We've been stuck here for so long. Please get us out. How? I said out loud. How do I get out? How do I help you? The whisper came from a different person now, the man with the coffee cup. The door. The back door. It only opens at midnight. I looked around. Which midnight? What time is it now? Another voice, the kid at the window. Time doesn't matter here. Just wait. Wait until you feel it. You'll know. So I waited. And waited. I don't know how long. My phone never changed. The clocks never moved. But eventually, I felt something shift. The air got even colder. The silence got deeper. And I knew. I knew it was midnight, whatever that meant in this place. I ran to the back door, the one I tried earlier. I grabbed the handle and pulled. It opened. I couldn't believe it. Cold night air rushed in, and I could see the parking lot, my truck sitting right where I'd left it. I turned back to the frozen people. Come on, I shouted. The door's open. Let's go. But they didn't move. Couldn't move. The whispers filled my head, all of them at once. We can't leave. We've been here too long. We're part of this place now. But you can go. Run. Before it's too late. Before you become like us. I didn't need to be told twice. I ran out that door and sprinted to my truck. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped them. I got the door open, climbed in, and started the engine. It roared to life, and I've never been so happy to hear that sound. I threw it in gear and floored it out of that parking lot. I drove for what felt like hours on that same narrow road. And then, just like that, I was back on the highway. The regular highway with signs and other cars and everything normal. My GPS came back online, showing I was exactly where I should be, like I'd never left the main road. But I checked the time. My phone said 3:22 a.m. I'd lost almost 8 hours. I pulled over at the first normal rest stop I found. It was busy, bright, full of people who moved and talked and acted like living humans. I asked the clerk if she knew about any old rest stops on back roads around here. She looked at me strange and said there was nothing like that in the area. All the rest stops were on the main highways. I've tried to find it again. I've driven every back road in Wisconsin I can find. Nothing. It's like that place vanished, or maybe it was never really there at all. But I know what I saw. I know those people are real, still trapped in that place where time doesn't work right. And I know I barely escaped. Sometimes late at night, when I'm driving through unfamiliar areas, I see it out of the corner of my eye. That old building with the parking lot. But when I look directly at it, it's gone. Just trees and darkness. And I hear the whispers in my head, those people begging for help, telling me I was their only chance and I left them behind. I don't know what that place was. Some kind of trap. Some pocket dimension where time breaks down. Maybe it's been there for decades, collecting people who get lost, freezing them in time, keeping them forever. All I know is I got lucky. I got out. But those people are still there, waiting at 3:15 or 9:47 or 11:23, frozen in moments that will never end, hoping the next lost driver will be able to save them. If you ever get lost on a back road and find a rest stop that looks old and wrong, don't stop. Don't go inside. Just keep driving. Because some places aren't meant for the living. And once time stops for you, it never starts again. Story 4, The Convoy That Followed Me Home. I finished a haul from Denver to Portland 6 weeks ago, and I haven't been able to sleep since. Not because of nightmares, but because I'm terrified of what I'll see when I close my eyes. Or worse, what I'll see when I wake up. Let me explain. The delivery was routine. 3 days on the road, hauling furniture. Nothing special. I pulled into my driveway around 11 p.m. on a Thursday night, exhausted but glad to be home. My wife had already gone to bed, and the neighborhood was quiet. I sat in my truck for a minute, just decompressing from the drive. That's when I noticed them. 3 trucks parked on my street. All identical. Same make and model as mine, same company logo, everything. They were spaced out evenly, one at each end of the block and one right across from my house. Their cabs were dark, and I couldn't see any drivers. I thought it was strange, but figured maybe my company was using my neighborhood for some kind of temporary parking. It happens sometimes. I went inside, grabbed a beer, and crashed on the couch. When I woke up the next morning, the trucks were still there. Same exact positions. I went out to check on them, thinking maybe the drivers needed help or had broken down. But when I got close, I realized these trucks weren't just identical to mine. They were perfect copies. Same scratches on the bumper. Same dent in the passenger door. Same faded company logo. It was like someone had cloned my truck 3 times. I checked the license plates. They were all the same number. My number. That's impossible. You can't have multiple vehicles with the same plate. I tried the doors. All locked. I looked in the windows, but the cabs were too dark to see inside. A sick feeling started growing in my stomach. This wasn't right. I called my company's fleet manager. "Hey, did you guys park some trucks on my street?" I asked. Long pause. "Tom, what are you talking about?" "All our trucks are accounted for. Yours is the only one assigned to your area." I explained what I was seeing. Another long pause. "Tom, that's not possible. Are you sure you're looking at our trucks?" I was looking right at one. "Yeah, I'm sure. They have the logo and everything." "I'll send someone to check it out," he said. But he sounded confused, like he thought I was losing it. Maybe I was. I went back inside and watched the trucks from my living room window. They didn't move. No one got in or out. They just sat there, these perfect copies of my truck, like they were waiting for something. Around noon, a guy from my company showed up. I went out to meet him. "Where are they?" he asked. I turned to point at the trucks. They were gone. All 3 of them. Vanished in broad daylight on a quiet residential street. They were right there, I insisted, pointing at the empty curbs. 3 trucks, identical to mine. He looked at me with concern. Tom, there's nothing there. Are you feeling okay? When's the last time you slept? I couldn't answer. He suggested I take a few days off, get some rest. Said the long hauls could mess with your head sometimes. I nodded and watched him drive away, but I knew what I'd seen. Those trucks were real. That night, they came back. All 3 of them, parked in the exact same spots. This time, my wife saw them too. Honey, she called from the bedroom. Why are there trucks that look like yours on our street? Relief flooded through me. I wasn't crazy. She saw them too. We both went outside to look. The trucks were there, but now their engines were running. I could hear them idling, see the exhaust coming from the pipes. Should we call the police? My wife asked. I was about to say yes when all 3 trucks turned their headlights on simultaneously. They were pointed at our house, flooding our yard with light. We stood there, frozen in the glare. Then, one by one, the driver's side doors opened. But no one got out. The doors just hung open, and the cab lights came on, revealing empty seats. My wife grabbed my arm. Tom, let's go inside. We started backing toward our house, and that's when the horn started. All 3 trucks blared their horns in unison, a deafening sound that echoed through the neighborhood. Lights came on in other houses. People started coming outside to see what the noise was. And then the trucks just stopped. Engines off. Lights off. Doors closing by themselves. And 5 seconds later, they vanished. Right in front of everyone. One moment they were there, solid and real and loud. The next moment, nothing. Just empty street. Our neighbors saw it happen. Mrs. Patterson from next door nearly fainted. Young couple 3 houses down just stood there with their mouths open. The police came. They took statements from everyone who saw it, but what could they write in their report? Phantom trucks that appear and disappear? They suggested maybe it was some kind of mass hallucination, gas leak, something. But we all knew what we'd seen. Those trucks were real. And then they weren't. That was 5 weeks ago. Since then, the trucks have appeared every single night. Sometimes all 3, sometimes just 1, sometimes in different configurations. They park on my street, engines running, and they watch my house. I know that sounds crazy. Trucks can't watch anything. But I feel them watching. The empty cabs pointed at my windows. Waiting. Last week, I found something that terrified me. I was checking my own truck before a short haul, and I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. It was written in my handwriting, "We're all you, Tom. All the versions of you that died on the road. We're trying to come home." I showed it to my wife. She went pale. Tom, what does that mean? Versions of you that died? I didn't know. I still don't. But I've started researching, talking to other truckers, trying to find answers. That's when I heard the stories. There's an urban legend in the trucking community about the Phantom Convoy. Trucks that appear to drivers who've had close calls on the road. Near-death experiences. Moments where they should have died but didn't. The legend says these trucks represent the alternate timelines where you did die, where your truck crashed, where you fell asleep at the wheel or something worse happened. And they're angry that you lived when they died. I've had close calls. More than I can count. There was that time in Montana where I almost hit black ice and would have gone off a cliff. The moment in Texas where I swerved to avoid a deer and nearly rolled my truck. The night in Pennsylvania where I dozed off for just a second and woke up drifting into oncoming traffic. Each time, I survived. But in other timelines, other versions of me didn't. Now those dead versions want to come home. They want my life, my house, my family. And every night, they get a little closer. Last night, one of the trucks was parked in my driveway. My wife didn't see it, but I did. I watched from the window as the driver's door opened and something that looked like me climbed out. It stood there in my driveway, staring at my house with dead eyes. Then it smiled and waved at me before disappearing. I don't know how to stop this. I don't know how to make them go away. But I know they're getting stronger. And I'm terrified that one night, I'll go to sleep and one of them will take my place. My wife will wake up next to something that looks like me but isn't. And I'll be the one trapped in that phantom truck, driving empty roads forever, trying to find my way home to a life that's no longer mine. Story 5. The voice on my CB radio. I've been a trucker for 17 years, and the CB radio has always been my companion on long hauls. It's how we communicate, share information about road conditions, weather, cops, whatever. It's also how we keep each other sane during those lonely midnight hours. But 3 months ago, I heard something on my CB that I can't explain, and now I'm afraid to turn it on. I was hauling construction equipment from Phoenix to Salt Lake City. It was around 1:30 a.m., and I was somewhere in the middle of Nevada on a highway so empty it felt like I was the last person on earth. I had my CB on, listening to occasional chatter from other truckers. Most of it was boring stuff. Traffic updates, weather reports, someone complaining about their dispatcher. Normal stuff. Then I heard her. A woman's voice, shaky and terrified, cutting through the static. "Please, somebody help me. I'm trapped. I don't know where I am." I grabbed my handset immediately. "This is Iron Horse, I copy you. What's your location?" Static. Then her voice again, weaker. "I can't see anything. It's so dark. There's something in here with me. Please, someone has to help me." My adrenaline spiked. This was real. Someone was in trouble. "Ma'am, try to stay calm. Can you describe anything you see? Any landmarks?" More static, then sobbing. "I'm in a truck. I don't know whose truck. I was hitchhiking and someone picked me up and now I'm locked in the back and I can't get out and there's something breathing in here with me. Oh God, it's moving. It's..." Her scream cut through the radio, high and piercing and full of absolute terror. Then silence. Just static. "Hello?" I called out. "Are you there? Can you hear me?" Nothing. I tried again. "Anyone else hearing this? Someone needs help." A male voice responded, but it wasn't another trucker. It was cold. Emotionless. "She can't hear you anymore." My blood ran cold. "Who is this? What did you do to her?" The voice laughed, and the sound made my skin crawl. "I didn't do anything. Yet. But I will. Just like I did to the others. Just like I'll do to you if you keep listening." I should have turned off the radio right then. But I couldn't. I needed to know what was happening. "Where is she? What have you done?" "You want to know," the voice said. "Look in your mirror. I'm right behind you." I jerked my head up, looking in my rearview mirror. The highway behind me was empty. Nothing but darkness. "There's nobody there," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I can see you, though," the voice continued. "Red Peterbilt. Company logo on the side. You're wearing a blue shirt. And you're alone. All alone on this empty highway where nobody would hear you scream." He was describing my truck. My clothes. But there was no one behind me. No one around me at all. "How are you?" I started to ask, but he interrupted. "Check your trailer." My heart stopped. My trailer. I was hauling construction equipment in an enclosed trailer. There were no windows, no way to see inside while driving. "You're lying," I said. "There's nobody in my trailer." "It's locked." "Is it?" the voice asked. "Are you sure? When's the last time you checked?" I tried to remember. I'd locked it in Phoenix before leaving. Hadn't stopped since. Hadn't heard any sounds from the back. But what if? No. That was impossible. The voice laughed again. Pull over. Check your trailer. See what's inside. Or keep driving and let it surprise you when you stop. I was shaking now. This had to be some kind of sick joke. But what if it wasn't? What if that woman was real? What if she was in my trailer right now, along with whoever this monster was? I looked for a place to pull over. There was nothing. Just empty desert highway. The voice came through again. Tick-tock, Iron Horse. She doesn't have much time. Neither do you. Then I heard it. A bang from my trailer. A heavy, metallic bang like something hitting the walls from inside. I nearly swerved off the road. Another bang. Then another. Something was in there. Something was in my trailer. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but I had no signal. Of course. Middle of nowhere, Nevada, no cell towers for miles. The banging got louder, more frantic. And underneath it, I could hear screaming. A woman screaming. Help me. Please. He's going to kill me. It was coming from my trailer. That woman was in my trailer. I slammed on the brakes, pulling onto the shoulders so hard I nearly jackknifed it. I jumped out of the cab, my hands fumbling for my keys. I had to get that trailer open. Had to help her. I ran to the back, unlocked the trailer doors, and threw them open. The interior lights came on automatically. The trailer was empty. Just construction equipment, strapped down exactly how I'd left it. No woman. No attacker. Nothing. But I'd heard her. I'd heard the banging. I'd heard her screaming. The CB radio in my truck crackled to life, and that cold voice said, "Did you find her? Or did she find you?" I spun around, and my blood turned to ice. My truck's headlights were on, illuminating the desert around me. And in the light, I could see footprints. Fresh footprints in the sand, leading from my trailer to the driver's side door. Someone had gotten out of my trailer while I was running to the back. Someone had climbed into my cab. I approached my truck slowly, quietly, trying to see through the windows. The driver's door was open. I'd left it closed. Someone was in there. I grabbed a crowbar from my toolbox and crept closer. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I reached the door and looked inside. Empty. Nobody there. But sitting on my seat was a phone. Not my phone. An old flip phone, the kind nobody uses anymore. I picked it up with shaking hands. There was one text message on it: "I'll be listening." The CB radio crackled again, that voice filling my cab. "See you soon, Iron Horse." Real soon. Then nothing. Just static. I got back in my truck, locked all the doors, and drove straight to the nearest truck stop. I didn't stop until I was surrounded by lights and people. The police checked my truck, my trailer, everything. Found nothing. No evidence anyone had been in there. They ran the plate on that flip phone. It belonged to a woman named Sarah Mitchell who disappeared 3 years ago while hitchhiking through Nevada. She was never found. They asked if I was willing to give a statement. I told them everything. They didn't believe me. Said I was probably exhausted, hallucinating. But they took the phone as evidence. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I hear her every few days. That woman, Sarah, calling for help on my CB. Sometimes it's late at night. Sometimes it's the middle of the day. Doesn't matter. She's always there, trapped somewhere dark, begging someone to save her. And that voice is always there too, taunting me, describing my location, telling me he's watching. Other truckers have reported the same thing. A woman calling for help on the CB. A cold voice threatening them. Some have found phones in their trucks. Others have heard footsteps in their trailers. One driver claimed he saw someone in his passenger seat who disappeared when he looked directly at them. There's a theory going around that Sarah Mitchell is still alive, that she's been kept prisoner by someone who drives the highways, who uses CB radios to hunt for new victims. He makes his victims call for help, knowing that good people will try to save them. And when they do, he takes them too. Or maybe Sarah's dead and her voice is just a recording, a lure to trap people. I don't know which is worse. I don't use my CB anymore. I drive in silence. But sometimes, even with it turned off, I hear static. I hear her voice underneath it. Please help me. I'm still here. I'm still trapped. And I wonder if she's real, if there's any way to save her, or if she's just another ghost on the highway, doomed to call for help that will never come. Story 6, The Highway That Loops Forever. I've been driving for 6 days straight, and I can't find my way home. I know how that sounds. How can you get lost when you have GPS, when you know the roads? But I swear to you, I'm trapped in some kind of loop, and I don't know if I'll ever escape. It started with a normal haul from Seattle to Boise. A route I've driven maybe 50 times. It's straightforward. Just follow I-90 east through Washington, cut through Idaho, done. But somewhere around Spokane, I missed my exit. The GPS told me to take exit 281, but I blinked and I was past it. No big deal, I take the next one and loop back. Except the next exit never came. I drove for 20 minutes, watching for exit signs, but there was nothing. The GPS kept saying recalculating over and over. Finally, I saw an exit. It wasn't the one I wanted, but I took it anyway. The ramp led me down to a 2-lane highway that looked familiar but wasn't quite right. The trees were too close. The road was too straight. And there were no signs anywhere. I drove for an hour, expecting to see a town or at least another highway. Nothing. Just road and trees and darkness. My phone lost signal. The GPS went blank. I was getting worried now. I looked for anywhere to turn around, but the road had no shoulders, no driveways, nothing. Just endless highway cutting through thick forest. Then I saw it. A billboard. Old and faded, advertising a diner that had closed down 20 years ago. I recognized it because I'd seen it before on this route. But that billboard should have been 50 miles back. How was I seeing it again? I told myself maybe there were 2 identical billboards. It happens. But then I saw it again. And again. Every hour, that same billboard appeared, in the exact same condition, rust stains and all. I was in a loop. Somehow, I was driving in a circle, even though the road was perfectly straight. I pulled over, or tried to. But the moment I started to slow down, my truck lurched forward on its own, like something was pushing it. I couldn't stop. The accelerator was responding, but any time I touched the brake, the truck just sped up. I was trapped in a vehicle I couldn't control, on a road that never ended. By the second day, I was starting to panic. I hadn't eaten. I was surviving on old snacks from my cab. My water was running low. I tried flagging down other vehicles, but I'd only seen maybe 5 cars, and they all ignored me. They just drove past like I wasn't there. I tried to crash into them, anything to make them stop, but my steering wheel wouldn't respond. I could only drive straight. On the 3rd day, I saw another truck parked on the shoulder. I was moving too fast to get a good look, but it seemed abandoned. On my next loop past it, I slowed down as much as I could and looked closer. It was identical to mine. Same make, model, company logo. And there was someone in the driver's seat, slumped over the wheel. I couldn't stop, couldn't help, just had to keep driving past. On the 4th day, I passed it again, and this time I got a look at the driver's face. It was me. Older, thinner, with dead eyes, but definitely me. I screamed. I jerked the wheel, trying to crash, trying to stop, anything. But the truck kept going, forcing me forward on this impossible highway. That's when I understood. This isn't just a loop. It's a trap. This highway collects drivers who get lost, who miss their exits, who end up on roads they don't recognize. And it never lets them go. They drive until they run out of fuel, until they die from dehydration or starvation or just give up. And then they sit there on the shoulder, forever, while new drivers take their place. I've seen more trucks now. At least 20, all parked on the shoulder with dead drivers inside. Some of them are me. Different versions, different ages, but all me. All the times I could have ended up here but didn't. Until now. I'm losing track of time. My phone still says it's Tuesday, but I know that can't be right. I've been driving for days. Haven't slept. Can't sleep. If I close my eyes, the truck drifts, and I feel something reaching for me from outside, trying to pull me off the road. I found a journal in my glove compartment. I don't remember putting it there. The handwriting is mine, but I didn't write it. The entries go back years. Different versions of me, all trapped on this highway, all documenting their experiences before they died. The last entry says, if you're reading this, you're me. You're trapped too. There's only one way out. You have to drive until you catch up to yourself. Until you reach the moment you first entered the loop. And then you have to make a different choice. I don't know what that means. How do I catch up to myself? How do I reach a moment that already happened? But I keep driving because what else can I do? Every loop, I see that same billboard. That same forest. Those same dead trucks with dead versions of me inside. And I know, eventually, I'll run out of fuel. I'll pull over. And I'll become one of those corpses, waiting for the next version of me to drive past. If somehow this message gets out, if you're reading this, please. Be careful on the highways. Double check your exits. Don't trust your GPS when it says recalculating. Because some roads don't lead anywhere. They just loop forever, collecting drivers who can never go home. And once you're on one, there's no escape. I'm so tired. I just want to go home. But home feels like a dream now, something that existed in another life. All I have is this highway, this truck, and the growing certainty that I'll die here, just like all the other versions of me. Just another corpse on an impossible road, driving forever toward nowhere. Story 7, The Cargo That Moved. I've hauled everything you can imagine in 10 years of trucking. Furniture, electronics, food, machinery, you name it. I've never had a problem with my cargo before. It's always just stuff. Inanimate objects that sit in the back of my trailer until I deliver them. But last month, I hauled something that wasn't just stuff. Something that moved. Something that was alive. Or worse than alive. The job came through on a Friday afternoon. My dispatcher called and said I had a last-minute rush delivery from New Orleans to Atlanta. The client was paying triple the normal rate, which should have been my first warning. But I needed the money, and I wasn't about to turn down that kind of pay. He said the cargo was medical supplies, refrigerated, very important. Said I needed to drive straight through, no stopping except for fuel and bathrooms. I picked up the trailer from a warehouse on the outskirts of New Orleans. The place was weird. No signs, no company name, just a big metal building surrounded by a chain-link fence. A guy in a hazmat suit brought out the trailer, already loaded and sealed. He made me sign about 15 different documents, all with legal jargon about not opening the cargo, not stopping unnecessarily, delivering within 12 hours. I signed everything without reading it. Stupid, I know. The trailer was refrigerated, set to 35 degrees. I could hear the cooling unit running. I hooked it up, did my pre-trip inspection, everything seemed normal. The guy in the hazmat suit watched me the whole time. Right before I left, he said something that stuck with me, don't open the trailer. No matter what you hear. Just drive. I laughed it off, figuring he was just being dramatic about keeping the temperature regulated. I hit the road around 6 p.m. The plan was to drive straight through the night, arrive in Atlanta by morning. The first few hours were normal. I stopped once for fuel, once for a quick bathroom break. Both times, I walked past the trailer, and everything seemed fine. Just a big metal box humming away with its cooling unit. Nothing unusual. Around 2 a.m., somewhere in Mississippi, I started hearing sounds from the trailer. At first, I thought it was just the cooling unit making noises, mechanical groans, and clicks. But then I heard something that definitely wasn't mechanical. It sounded like scratching. Like something dragging across metal. Long, slow scratches, like fingernails or claws scraping along the inside of the trailer. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe something had shifted, was rubbing against the walls. But the scratching continued, rhythmic and deliberate. Scratch. 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 Then it stopped. A few minutes of silence. Then it started again, this time faster, more frantic. I turned up my radio, trying to drown it out. It didn't help. I could still hear it underneath the music. Then came the banging. 3 loud bangs, like someone hitting the trailer walls with their fists. I nearly swerved off the road. I pulled onto the shoulder, my heart racing. The banging stopped. I sat there in the darkness, listening. Nothing. Just the hum of the cooling unit and my own ragged breathing. I grabbed my flashlight and got out to check the trailer. I walked around it, looking for any signs of damage, anything unusual. Everything looked normal. Locked and sealed, just like when I picked it up. I was about to get back in my truck when I heard it. A voice. Muffled, coming from inside the trailer. Let me out. My blood turned to ice. That wasn't possible. This was supposed to be medical supplies. Equipment. Not people. Let me out. Please. The voice was weak, desperate. Female. Someone was trapped in there. I ran to the back of the trailer, reaching for the lock. My hands were shaking. I had to get her out. But I remembered what the guy in the hazmat suit said. Don't open the trailer. No matter what. I hesitated. What if this was some kind of test? What if opening it would get me in serious trouble? But there was someone in there. Someone who needed help. I couldn't just leave them. I was reaching for the lock when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it. Hello? Do not open that trailer. It was a man's voice, cold and authoritative. Who is this? I demanded. How did you? Do not open the trailer, he repeated. You signed a contract. You agreed to deliver the cargo without opening it. If you open it, you're in breach of contract and you'll face serious consequences. I was shaking with anger now. There's someone in there. Someone alive. I can hear them. No, the voice said. There isn't. What you're hearing is not human. It's imitating a human voice to make you open the trailer. If you do, it will escape, and you will be responsible for what happens next. Do you understand? I didn't understand. None of this made sense. What the hell am I carrying? I shouted. Long silence. Then, something that should never have existed. Something that's being transported to a facility that can contain it. You have one job. Deliver it. Do not open the trailer. Do not stop. Just drive. He hung up. I stood there in the dark, the voice from the trailer still calling out. Please, I'm so cold. I can't breathe. Let me out. Please. It sounded so real. So human. But the man on the phone said it wasn't. That it was imitating. What if he was right? What if I opened that trailer and something terrible got out? But what if he was lying? What if there really was someone in there who needed help? I made a decision. I wasn't opening it. Not yet. I'd drive to the next town, find a police station, let them handle it. I got back in my truck and started driving. The voice from the trailer got louder, more desperate. No. Don't leave me. Please. I'm dying in here. Then it changed. The voice got deeper, angrier. You'll pay for this. I'll make you pay. Then came the pounding. Not just banging, but violent pounding, like something was trying to break through the trailer walls from the inside. The whole truck shook with each impact. I floored it, pushing 80 miles per hour, desperate to get to civilization. The pounding got worse. I could see the trailer rocking in my mirrors. Whatever was in there was strong. Impossibly strong. Then the temperature alarm went off. The refrigeration unit had failed. Or been destroyed. The trailer was warming up. Within minutes, it was at 60 degrees. Then 75. Then 90. The pounding intensified. I heard metal tearing. Something was breaking through. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but before I could dial, the truck filled with the most horrific smell I've ever experienced. Like rotting meat mixed with chemicals. It was coming from the trailer, seeping through the vents. I saw lights ahead. A truck stop. I pulled in, barely able to breathe from the smell, barely able to see from the tears streaming down my face. I jumped out and ran inside, shouting for someone to call the police. People were backing away from me, covering their noses. I must have reeked. The smell had gotten into my clothes, my hair, everything. The police arrived, along with fire trucks and hazmat teams. They approached my trailer carefully, suited up in full protective gear. They unsealed it and opened the doors. I couldn't see what was inside from where I was standing, but I saw the reactions of the first responders. 2 of them vomited. 3 others backed away quickly. One just stood there, staring, like he couldn't process what he was seeing. They wouldn't let me near it. They wouldn't tell me what it was. They just said the cargo had been compromised and needed to be transferred immediately. They brought in a specialized containment unit, transferred whatever was in my trailer into it, and drove away. The whole time, I could hear sounds from inside. Not human sounds. Not animal sounds. Just sounds that shouldn't exist. A man in a black suit showed up and made me sign more documents. He said I'd fulfilled my contract despite the temperature failure, and I'd be paid in full. He also made me sign an NDA, threatening serious legal consequences if I ever spoke about what I'd hauled. He said the cargo was a failed pharmaceutical experiment that had to be destroyed. Said the sounds I heard were just gases escaping from the organic compounds. But I know that's bullshit. Gases don't beg to be let out. They don't make threats. They don't tear through metal. I got paid. Triple rate, just like promised. But I can't spend it. Every time I look at that money, I hear that voice. Let me out. Please. And I wonder what would have happened if I'd opened that trailer. Would something have escaped? Something dangerous? Something that could hurt people? Or was there really someone in there, someone who needed help, and I left them to die or worse? I've had nightmares every night since then. Dreams where I open the trailer and see what's inside. Each time it's different. Sometimes it's a person, twisted and wrong, with too many limbs and eyes that glow. Sometimes it's something that doesn't have a shape, just a mass of writhing flesh. Sometimes it's empty, but I can feel something watching me from the darkness. Other truckers have told me stories. Mysterious cargo that makes sounds. Shipments that have to be delivered without questions. Companies that pay huge money for drivers willing to haul things without looking. There's a whole underground network of these deliveries, carrying things that the government or corporations want moved quietly. Experiments gone wrong. Biological weapons. Things that shouldn't exist. I turned down 3 more jobs like that. The pay was incredible, but I can't do it again. I can't spend another night listening to something inhuman imitating human voices, begging and threatening and pounding against metal. I can't take the risk of opening a trailer and releasing something terrible into the world. But sometimes, late at night when I'm on an empty highway, I hear scratching from my trailer. Even when it's empty. Even when there's nothing back there. And I wonder if something followed me home. If part of whatever I carried that night is still with me, trapped between worlds, waiting for someone to open the door and let it out.